Mixer, Headspaces, welcome. It's your brother from the ancient mother, you know what it is, Viwe, giving you another Headspace album review. Now, they say a smile is one of the most radiant ways of coming across to people. Smiles disarm us. We don't trust each other most of the time, so when somebody smiles at you, it relieves you, it relieves the tension, and it makes you feel a little bit more confident to approach them. Why am I talking about smiles? I'm talking about smiles because one of the most singularly interesting rappers in the game right now, practically for me, the most strikingly innovative MC that is currently active and making work eMzansi right now, a cat by the name of Supah Mpondo, just dropped his latest EP entitled Rainbow Toothpaste. Now my nigga ain't talking about Aqua Fresh, but I do feel that what the title is alluding to is two things. We live in the supposed Rainbow Nation, and because of that, we have been given, and a lot of the people who are quote-unquote born frees, a lot of the people who have ushered and grown and evolved in an era that is supposedly post-apartheid, that is supposedly out of the state of oppression and in a state of new possibilities. So rainbow in that sense, and toothpaste in the sense of a smile is one of the ways that people show their vulnerability. Most of the time when you smile from the heart, you can't help it. You smile because you genuinely have interacted with something that spontaneously makes you feel good. And that doesn't happen pretty often in life. A lot of the times, emotions are a repercussion of effort and this kind of give and take dynamic of bringing yourself out into the world and allowing the world to bring itself unto you. So here's an MC whose sound is radically awkward. Supah Mpondo is in the tradition of sound poetry. He does not make music for classical entertainment sake. And what I mean by that, he does not make music that can fit into the context of dance. He does not make music that you listen to so that you cannot think, so that you can just slip away in an emotional residue of joy or reflection or whatnot. He makes music for the opposite perspective. He's in the tradition of artists like Landmine, whose review we did earlier on, who really are making music that actively should strike a thought in your head, that is manufactured for you to dive into as a conversation. As an artist, he sits down with you and he tells you and he instructs you and he engages with you about things that he's going through, and he probes you about what you think. And the fresh thing about Supah Mpondo is that he does this in a humorous way. He's a bit of a comical sage. I mean, the dude is littered with references that are rich in esoteric knowledge, the streets, South Africanisms, and all kinds of pop culture jargon, really wrapped up in this really eloquent vocab that he delivers in a way that is clumsy, clowny, but has such an effortless sense of humor to it. He reminds me a lot of Slick Rick. You know, he's got this almost old school flow that doesn't rush into things. It's almost as if he's conversating with you, and he conversates with you in a way that he wants you to know that, hold up, I don't take myself too seriously, so the only way this conversation is going to work is if you don't take yourself seriously too. He jokes at himself, he laughs at himself. If you've seen the dude, he looks a bit funny. He's a bit acne ridden, he looks nerdy, he's skinny, he dresses a little bit disheveled, and I like that about him because I feel like ultimately what the music is saying to me is that don't trust people who come across too perfect. We live in an era where the industry manufactures the image of perfection. An artist is supposed to look the flyest, speak the flyest, act the flyest. Supah Mpondo says, fuck that. I have inadequacies. I will not pay you back if you give me your money, like he does on the first track. I am totally afraid of the anxiety of the streets. I have been fucked over by a lot of girls and I still feel some type of way about it. I hold grudges, I hold peace, I hold space. And he says all of this in a way that this album is like 6 tracks long, so it's really brief, but in this brevity he distills so much dense information about who he is, and he's been doing this for like a series of projects that are always glimpses. This is the latest. He's weaving in, and I feel like he's kind of building a monument of who he is, slowly but surely, and man is taking his time, and there's a level of patience in his music. So why am I rambling all of this? If you want music to bump in your car, if you want music to play in a social space, this is not it. This is intimacy. This is if you want to have a conversation. This is if you want a perspective that's going to refresh you on the existential angst that we all face. This is if you want to embrace your own anxiety and talk to somebody who is confident about their awkwardness, who wears it on their sleeve. I think he's Supah Mpondo also in the sense that he takes his imperfections and wears them like a cape and says, Supah Mpondo to the rescue. And stylistically, I appreciate this cat because I feel like he's the most fitting successor to Lymphatic Tabs. He is Mzansi Rap's new wonder kid, Mzansi Abstract Rap's new wonder kid, because he's delivering bars for bars' sake, but he's also adding an element of flavor and groove to it. The sonic texture he builds with his producer here really is about slow, gradual, lo-fi, what you would term chill hop, very minimal. The synths are very colorful. They are deliberately off tune, and it's like a Looney Tune madness cartoon reel. It feels like watching a sitcom and listening to this guy narrate his life in a way that makes you laugh at him, but also realize that he's laughing at himself and he's giving you permission to laugh at yourself. So that's the freedom, that's the power in this project, that's the power in an MC like Supah Mpondo, which brings me to my final point of why and how I'm rating this project. Now, it is very difficult to be different. And here's a guy who sounds like absolutely nobody. He is so adjacent from the typical norm of what's happening right now that he alienates himself from a lot of the currency of what SA hip-hop is becoming. And yet, he does this in a way that makes any open-minded listener curious about his story. And if you're somebody that likes digesting narrative, storytelling, and that appreciates that A word, authenticity, this brother has tracks where urepang is Xhosa, and even then he's doing it in a way that is filled with so much insight and intelligence and humor. So ultimately, Supah Mpondo lives up to his sense of South Africanness, his sense of where's he from? Bizarreness. He lives up to his own unique experiences, and obviously, as a hip-hop head, these draw from a lot of the Americanisms, but never do you sense America, or never do you sense his influence in this. All you hear is something radically mind-alteringly new. And for that, I'm giving this project an 8 out of 10. 8 because it's just too goddamn short. It's so short that you feel like there's still so much to be said. And maybe he's on some kind of strategy to develop it as it goes along, but I'm definitely hooked for the ride. And another reason I'm not giving it that 2 is because in its brevity, it stays kind of compact in this same world of chill hop, you know. And the most exciting joint on the album doesn't really go outside of that context. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is to remain in that gentle space so that the openness and the conversations can flow a little bit easier. So I want to say shout out to Supah Mpondo for being different. Shout out to Supah Mpondo for being different in a way that recognizes his strengths. And I really hope that the South African hip-hop economy can accommodate artists like Supah Mpondo to become lucrative in their art form. But either way, art starts as a personal sense of therapy, and this album gave me a lot of therapeutic reflection, and I really feel like Mans is doing his own sense of unpacking himself as he makes his music. And ultimately, if you ask me, that's all that matters. If the art heals you and manages to, in the process of you putting it out, heal other people, then you're doing God's work. So salute to Supah Mpondo. Keep it going, brother. I salute you, and that's an 8 out of 10 project. Let's keep it going. Go VJ, come through with it.
You go excel, cancel all debt, and you can get, and in a budget, and in a span, Usabangani, Antembakali, Usabazali.